The escape pod screamed through the atmosphere of Kravish 7, trailing fire and smoke like a dying star. Inside, wrapped in torn blankets, a human infant wailed against the violent shaking. The smugglers who had jettisoned the pod were already jumping to light speed, eager to forget the contraband child they had discovered in their cargo hold. The pod crashed into thick jungle vegetation, its emergency systems failing one by one. The hatch blew open with a hiss of pressurized air, and the baby's cries echoed into the alien wilderness. 3 kilometers away, Scarish lifted her massive head. The Drachner female was 12 feet of scale muscle and predatory grace, her amber eyes reflecting the last light of the setting sun. She had left her pack to hunt alone, driven by instinct she did not fully understand. Her body ached with the need to nurture, though her own clutch had been destroyed by rivals months ago. The sound reached her again, high-pitched, desperate, wrong for any creature she knew, yet it pulled at something deep in her mind. She moved through the jungle with surprising silence for something so large. Her clawed feet barely disturbed the undergrowth as she followed the crying. The scent hit her next, burning metal, synthetic materials, and underneath it all, the smell of young flesh. Prey. Scarish found the pod in a clearing of broken trees. Smoke still rose from its damaged hull. She approached cautiously, every instinct telling her this was human technology. Humans meant danger. Humans meant weapons that could kill from great distances. But the crying continued, weaker now. She peered into the pod. The creature inside was tiny, pink, and completely helpless. It had no scales, no claws, no fangs. Its skin looked soft enough to tear with the gentlest touch. When it saw her looming above, it should have gone silent with fear. Instead, it reached up with small, grasping hands. Scarish should have killed it. Food was food, and the pack was always hungry. Her jaws could crush its skull in an instant. She lowered her head, her hot breath washing over the infant. The baby grabbed her snout. Something broke inside Scarish's mind. The tiny hands held on with desperate trust, and the maternal instinct that had been tearing her apart found a focus. She made a sound deep in her throat, a rumbling purr that Drachner mothers use to calm their young. The baby's crying softened to whimpers. Very carefully, Scarish gripped the blanket bundle in her jaws and lifted the infant free. She turned and began the journey back to her den, moving slowly to keep from jostling her unlikely cargo. The pack smelled her return before they saw her. Vorgith, the alpha male, emerged from the den first. His scales were darker than Scarish's, marked with scars from countless battles. Behind him came 3 younger males and 2 other females. They formed a semicircle, watching as Scarish approached. She laid the bundle gently on the ground. The baby had fallen asleep against her warmth during the journey. Its tiny chest rose and fell with each breath. Vorgith approached, his nostrils flaring as he took in the scent. His growl was low and threatening. This was human. Enemy. He moved forward, ready to eliminate the threat. Scarish placed herself between Vorgith and the infant. Her own growl matched his, and she bared her fangs. The challenge was clear. The pack went silent. Females did not challenge the alpha. Not over prey. Not over anything. Vorgith circled, looking for an opening. Scarish turned with him, never exposing the baby. The other pack members watched with confusion and growing interest. This was unprecedented behavior. The standoff lasted for long minutes. Then the baby woke and began to cry again, that same high-pitched sound that had drawn Scarish. Something about the frequency seemed to cut through the tension. Vorgith paused, his head tilting slightly. The baby's cries grew more insistent. Without thinking, Scarish began to regurgitate partially digested meat, a response programmed into her biology for feeding young. She nudged the offering toward the infant. The baby's hands found the food. Its instincts for survival were strong. It began to eat. Vorgith watched this for a long moment. Then, with a snort that might have been disgust or acceptance, he turned and walked back to the den. The challenge was over. The human could stay. For now. As the sun's fully set in Kravish 7's 3 moons rose into the sky, Scarish curled her massive body around the tiny human. The baby pressed against her warmth, finally quiet, finally safe. The pack settled in around them. still uncertain but willing to follow their alpha's acceptance. None of them knew they had just changed the future of their world. 5 years had passed since the night Scarish brought home the crying infant. The creature they now knew as Kale had grown into something the galaxy had never seen before. He moved through the jungle on all fours, his hands and feet calloused and strong. His hair hung wild and tangled, and his skin was marked with dozens of small scars from learning to survive in a world of claws and teeth. Kale crouched beside Vorgith, watching a herd of 6-legged grazers in the valley below. He could not speak human words anymore, but he understood the Drachner language of growls, hisses, and body movements. He touched Vorgith's leg and pointed to the left side of the herd, then gestured to show the wind direction. Vorgith understood. The young human was suggesting they attack from downwind, using the rocks for cover. It was clever. Vorgith rumbled his approval and signaled the pack to move into position. But Kale held up his hand. Wait! He had learned something the Drachner had not. He picked up several rocks and began placing them in a line, creating a path that would funnel the prey toward a narrow gap between 2 boulders. Then he took a long stick he had been carrying and sharpened the end against a rock. He wedged it between the boulders at an angle. The pack watched with fascination. They had seen Kale do strange things with his hand before, but this was different. This was planning. When everything was ready, Kale gave the signal. The pack attacked from 3 sides, driving the herd exactly where Kale wanted them. One of the grazers ran straight into the sharpened stick, impaling itself. The kill was instant and clean. The pack fed well that day. Vorgith allowed Kale to eat first, alongside him. This was a great honor, and the other pack members took notice. The small human without claws or fangs had proven his worth again, but not everyone was pleased with Kale's rising status. A week later, a larger pack led by a massive male named Grektor entered their territory. Grektor's pack numbered 15 strong, nearly twice the size of Vorgith's group. They came at dawn, their challenge roars echoing through the jungle. Kale woke to the sound of battle. He scrambled to the top of a rock and watched as the 2 alphas circled each other, their packs forming rings around them. This was the Drachner way. The leaders fought while the others watched. Grektor was larger and younger than Vorgith. His scales were unmarked by age, and his movements were quick and brutal. Within minutes, Vorgith was bleeding from several wounds. He was losing. Kale felt something hot and fierce rise in his chest. Vorgith had accepted him when he should have been killed. Vorgith had taught him to hunt, to survive. This was his father in every way that mattered. Without thinking about the consequences, Kale grabbed the sharpened branch he always kept nearby. He jumped down from the rock and ran toward the fighting alphas. The watching Drachner hissed in shock. This broke every rule of challenge combat. Grektor saw the small human coming and laughed, a terrible sound. He turned from Vorgith to swat away this insect. But Kale was fast in ways the Drachner were not. He dodged under Grektor's claws and drove his branch deep into the alpha's shoulder. Grektor roared in pain and rage. He spun to crush Kale, but Vorgith recovered and struck from behind, his jaws closing on Grektor's neck. The fight was over in seconds. Grektor's pack stood frozen. Their leader had fallen, but not in proper combat. What happened now? Kale stepped forward, still holding his bloody branch. He was tiny compared to the Drachner surrounding him, but he made himself as tall as possible. He bared his teeth and made the deepest growl his human throat could manage. Then he pointed the branch at each of Grektor's pack members in turn. The message was clear. They could join Vorgith's pack, or they could fight the human and his weapon. One by one, the rival pack lowered their heads in submission. They had never seen anything like this strange creature who fought with wood and stone instead of teeth and claws. They had never imagined a packmate who could change the rules of combat itself. That night, Scarish groomed Kale as she had done since he was an infant, but now she did it with a different understanding. Her adopted son was no longer just a strange member of the pack. He was becoming something new, something dangerous and wonderful. Kale leaned against her massive form and made soft, rumbling sounds of contentment. He belonged here. He knew no other life, no other family. In the darkness, 23 pairs of Drachner eyes watched him with a mixture of respect and fear. The human was changing them, and they were changing him. 10 more years had shaped Kale into something the universe had never witnessed. He stood upright now, a lean young man of 15 with muscles like coiled wire and eyes that held both human intelligence and predatory focus. 3 Drachner packs followed him, over 50 beasts who had learned that his strange mind brought more food and fewer losses in traditional ways. Kale sat on a high rock overlooking the valley where all 3 packs gathered. He had taught them to hunt together, to share territory, to coordinate attacks on prey too dangerous for single packs. The Drachner had never done this before. Their nature was to fight rivals, not cooperate with them. But Kale had shown them a better way. He made a series of clicking sounds with his tongue, a signal he had invented. The pack leaders approached. Vorgith, now old and scarred. Scarish, her scales dull by age but her eyes still sharp. And Thresh, a young female whose pack had joined after Kale saved them from a territory flood by leading them to high ground. Kale used a combination of Drachner growls and human words he barely remembered. Big prey, North Valley, need all packs. The 3 leaders understood. They had learned to trust the humans' judgment. If he said they needed everyone, they needed everyone. The hunt took 2 days of tracking. The prey was a Titan grazer, a creature the size of a small building with armored hide and massive horns. No single pack could bring it down. Most Drachner never even tried. But Kale had a plan. He used pieces of charcoal to draw on flat rocks, showing the leaders where each pack should position themselves. He demonstrated with his hands how they would drive the Titan toward a cliff edge, how they would attack its legs in rotation to keep it turning in circles until it grew dizzy and confused. When the hunt began, it was like watching a single organism with 50 bodies. The Drachner moved in perfect coordination, following Kale's signals. He rode on Scarish's back, directing the attack with hand gestures and specific sounds. The Titan fought hard, but it had never faced such organized opposition. When the massive creature finally fell, the combined packs feasted for 3 days. Word spread through the jungle. The human who led the Drachner was powerful. He was dangerous. He was something new. Then the sky people came. Kale saw the metal bird descend from above, lowering itself into a clearing 2 valleys away. He had vague memories of such things from his earliest years, memories that felt like dreams. He gathered his fastest packmates and went to investigate. The humans wore strange skins that covered their whole bodies. They carried devices that made clicking sounds and flashing lights. Kale watched from the jungle shadows, his heart beating fast with emotions he could not name. One of the humans, a female with dark skin and kind eyes, was talking to the others. The Drachner population here is remarkable. I've never seen such coordinated behavior in the species. Kale understood some of the words. His human mind had not completely forgotten language, even if his mouth had trouble forming the sounds. Suddenly, a massive scale creature burst from the undergrowth. Not Drachner, but something else. Something with poisoned spines and mindless hunger. It charged toward the humans who had no time to raise their weapons. Kale did not think. He whistled sharply, and his pack exploded from the jungle. 20 Drachner hit the creature from all sides, bringing it down in seconds. The threat was eliminated before the humans could even understand what had happened. Then Kale stepped into the clearing. The humans froze. They stared at the lean, scarred young man who moved like an animal, who was surrounded by creatures that should have torn him apart. His clothing was made from animal hides and woven plant fibers. His hair was tied back with strips of leather. His eyes held an intelligence that was clearly human, but also something else. The kind-eyed woman stepped forward slowly. "Hello," she said softly. "Do you understand me? Are you human?" Kale's throat struggled to form words he had not spoken in years. "I am Kale." Each word was difficult, painful. "This my family." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "My God, how long have you been here? We need to help you. We need to take you home." The word home meant nothing to Kale. Home was Scarish's warmth. Home was Vorgitha's rumbling approval. Home was the pack. When the humans moved toward him with outstretched hands, the Drachner growled in warning. Kale raised his hand, and they fell silent instantly. The woman noticed. Her expression changed from pity to shock. "You're not their captive. You're their leader." Kale nodded slowly. He touched his chest. "King." The word came from somewhere deep in his memory. The humans raised strange devices that hummed. Kale felt sudden pain and dizziness. They were attacking. His pack surged forward, and the humans ran for their metal bird, barely escaping. As the ship lifted into the sky, Kale watched it go. Something had awakened inside him. Questions, curiosity, a need to understand what he was and where he came from. But one thing was certain. He would not leave his family. Not for anyone. Scarish pressed against his side, and Kale wrapped his arm around her massive neck. Whatever he was, whoever he had been, this was where he belonged. The story of the human who commanded beasts spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within weeks, Kale's world was no longer forgotten. Ships began arriving in orbit. Some with scientists, others with less peaceful intentions. The corporation called Helix Dynamics came with soldiers and machines. Their leader, a cold man named Director Marsh, watched footage of Kale and his packs with greedy eyes. "Imagine what we could do with this," he told his board. "Human-animal combat units. Perfect soldiers who need no technology, no supply lines. We capture the boy, learn his methods, replicate them." Kale knew nothing of these plans. He only knew that more metal birds had come, and this time they did not land peacefully. They flew low over the jungle, releasing machines that screamed with painful sounds. The Drachner howled in agony, their sensitive hearing overwhelmed by the sonic weapons. Kale covered his ears and watched his family scatter in confusion and pain. Scarish stumbled and fell. Vorga tried to charge the flying machines but could barely stand. The younger Drachner crashed into trees, completely disoriented. Small flying devices descended, firing darts at the helpless creatures. Kale recognized the danger. He had been struck by similar darts when the first humans tried to take him. Sleep weapons. Rage filled him like fire. These invaders were hurting his family. Kale ran through the chaos to a cave where he kept his collection of tools and scavenged items. He had found pieces of metal from old wrecks, parts of machines he did not fully understand. Now his human mind worked frantically, remembering, connecting ideas. He grabbed a piece of reflective metal, angling it toward the sun. The beam of focused light hit one of the flying machines. It was not enough to destroy it, but the machine's sensors went crazy and it crashed into a tree. Kale's mind raced. Light hurt their seeing devices. He whistled a pattern, and those Drachner who could still move followed him deeper into the jungle where the thick canopy blocked the sun. The flying machines followed but moved slower in the darkness. Over the next 3 days, Kale fought a war unlike any the Drachner had known. He taught his packs to hide in caves during the day when the machines flew. He showed them how to throw rocks at the flying devices, how to move in ways that confused their tracking. He learned to recognize patterns in how the machines searched. At night, when the machines returned to the human camp, Kale struck back. He led raids that destroyed equipment, cut power lines, and stole weapons. The human soldiers began to fear the darkness, never knowing when scaled shapes would surge from the jungle. But Kale knew he was losing. More machines came every day. His family was tired, hungry, and afraid. Several younger Drachner had been captured. Vorgoth had a wound that would not heal. Then the kind-eyed woman returned. Dr. Elena Vasquez came alone without weapons, walking into the jungle and calling Kale's name. He watched her from the shadows, suspicious. She had been with the first humans, the ones who tried to take him. "Kale, please," she called. "I'm not with them. I came to warn you. They're planning something terrible." Kale emerged slowly, his hand on a sharpened spear. His Drachner surrounded her, but did not attack. Elena held up a device. "This translates languages. It will help us talk." She pressed a button and spoke again. This time, her words came out as sounds Kale could fully understand, a mix of Drachner growls and human speech. "They're going to fire weapons from their ship in orbit," Elena said quickly. "Big weapons that will burn everything. They've decided you're too dangerous to capture. They're going to destroy this entire region in 2 days." Kale's blood ran cold. He understood enough. Kill from the sky. Kill everything. "Why you help?" he asked through the device, his words awkward but clear. "Because what they're doing is wrong. Elena said. "You're not an animal to be captured or a threat to be eliminated. You're a person, and these creatures," she gestured to the Drachner, "they're your family. I lost my family once. I won't help someone destroy another's." Kale looked at Scarish, at Vorgoth, at all the faces he had known since he could remember. Then he looked back at Elena. "How stop?" Elena smiled sadly. "I don't know if we can, but I brought information about their systems, their ship, their weapons. And I know you're smart, Kale. Smarter than they think." That night, by firelight, Elena taught Kale about the technology threatening his world. She showed him images and diagrams on her device. His human mind, dormant for so long, awakened fully. He began to understand not just how to survive against technology, but how to use it. "I need more," Kale said, his human speech improving with each hour. "Need their machines, need their weapons." "That's suicide," Elena said. "Their camp is heavily guarded." Kale smiled, and it was not entirely human. "They guard against humans, not against what I am." He stood and howled into the night. 50 voices answered. The Drachner King was going to war. The attack came at midnight when the corporation soldiers felt safest behind their electric fences and automated defenses. They had sensors that could detect heat and movement, weapons that could fire automatically at anything that approached. What they did not have was experience fighting an enemy who understood both animal cunning and human technology. Kale had spent the day studying everything Elena showed him. He learned which machines created the electric fence, which systems controlled the automated guns, and most importantly, where the communication arrays stood that connected the camp to the orbital ship. He divided his packs into 3 groups. The first group, led by Thresh, would create a distraction on the eastern side. The second, led by old Vorgoth despite his wounds, would attack from the west, and Kale would take Scarish and his fastest Drachner straight through the center. But first, he needed to blind them. Kale had scavenged wire and metal pieces from destroyed machines. With Elena's guidance, he created crude electromagnetic devices using the power cells from captured drones. They would not work for long, but they did not need to. When he activated them near the camp's perimeter, every sensor screen went dark. The soldiers shouted in confusion as their technology failed. In that moment of chaos, Kale struck. Thresh's pack hit the eastern fence with coordinated fury, their massive bodies smashing through the weakened barrier. Alarm screamed. Soldiers ran toward the breach with their weapons ready. They never saw the western attack until Vorgoth's pack was among them. The old alpha moved with all the skill of his long years, his jaws finding weapons and breaking them before they could fire. And through the center, where all the guards had rushed to the sides, Kale rode on Scarish's back like a shadow made flesh. They reached the communication array in seconds. Kale leaped down and placed the explosive device Elena had given him at the base of the tower. It was not military grade, just a mining charge from her ship, but it would be enough. Director Marsh emerged from command building, his face twisted with rage. "Kill them all. Bring down that human." Soldiers turned their weapons toward Kale, but 50 Drachner poured into the camp from every direction. It was not a battle. It was a statement. The machines and guns that made humans feel powerful meant nothing against coordinated intelligence and primal strength working together. Kale pressed the detonator. The communication tower exploded in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. The orbital ship could no longer receive firing coordinates. The planned destruction was stopped. But Marsh pulled out a personal communicator, screaming orders to fire anyway, to destroy everything. Kale covered the distance between them in seconds, moving with Drachner speed. He grabbed the device and crushed it in his hand. "You lose," Kale said in halting but clear human speech. "You leave. Never come back." Marsh laughed bitterly. "You think you've won? More will come. My corporation, the military, the entire Galactic Union. You're one human with animals. They'll burn this world to ash before they let you exist." Elena stepped forward from where she had been waiting at the jungle edge. "Maybe, or maybe they'll listen to reason." She held up her own communicator, which had been recording everything. "I've been transmitting this entire conversation. Every illegal weapon you used, every unauthorized military action, every plan to commit genocide on protected wildlife. The whole galaxy is watching, Director. Marcia's face went pale. You destroyed me. No, Elena said quietly. You destroyed yourself. Within hours, Galactic Union peacekeeping ships arrived in orbit. The corporation was ordered to withdraw immediately. Investigations were launched. Director Marsh was arrested, but the greater problem remained. What to do about Kale? The Union sent diplomats who landed with Elena as their guide. They found Kale waiting on a cliff overlooking his territory, surrounded by his family. He had prepared for this meeting by practicing human speech with Elena for hours. The head diplomat, an elderly alien with silver skin, studied Kale carefully. You present us with a unique situation. You are human by birth, but you lead a species we classified as dangerous animals. You use technology but reject civilization. What are you? Kale stood tall. He had thought about this question since Elena first called him human. I am both. I am neither. I am Kale. This is my home. These are my people. I protect them. The Galactic Union has laws. The diplomat said, this planet is designated as a penal colony. You cannot simply claim it. I not simply claim, Kale replied. I defend. I stay. Anyone who respects this land respects my family. They welcome. Anyone who comes to hurt or capture, they face all of us. The diplomat was quiet for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She bowed. The Union recognizes the Drachner Kingdom as sovereign territory under protection of Kale, the Drachner King. We will enforce a no-contact boundary unless you specifically invite interaction. Kale nodded slowly. It was more than he expected. Some humans can come. Ones who want to learn, who want to understand. Like Elena. Elena smiled, tears in her eyes. I'll stay as long as you'll have me. Someone needs to help you build proper shelters before the rain season. Over the following months, something remarkable grew in the jungle. Kale's kingdom became a place where two worlds met. A handful of humans came to study and learn, living alongside the Drachner, understanding that strength came in many forms. Kale taught them that survival was not about dominating nature, but becoming part of it. He built shelters that combined human engineering with natural materials. He created a written language that mixed human symbols with Drachner meanings. He established rules that protected both his packs and the visitors who came in peace. One evening, as 3 moons rose over Crover 7, Kale stood on his favorite cliff. Scarish, ancient now but still strong, rested beside him. Vorgeth had passed during the winter, but his children led packs of their own. Young Drachner played below while human children watched in wonder, learning that family could mean more than species. Kale wore armor made from Drachner scales and salvaged technology. On his belt hung both traditional Drachner weapons and human tools. He was neither one thing nor the other. He was something new. A ship descended in the distance, bringing more visitors. More people wanting to learn from the impossible king. Kale threw back his head and howled. It was a sound that belonged to no single species, a call that spoke of unity and strength and belonging. His packs answered from all across the territory, their voices rising together. Elena stood beside him, translating his howl through her device. He says welcome. He says learn. He says respect. The king's dominion was not built on conquest or domination. It was built on understanding that being different was not weakness. That family was not defined by blood. That home was wherever your pack stood beside you. Kale smiled, and in that smile was both the boy who had been abandoned and the king he had become. He belonged here. They all did.